I want to start by telling you the truth. Sometimes life doesn't just knock you down, it shatters you. And I know what it feels like to look in the mirror and not even recognize the person staring back. I broke myself, piece by piece, choice by choice, until all that was left was the rubble of who I thought I was supposed to be. But here's the thing: in that rubble, in that silence after the breakdown, I found something I had never heard before, my own voice. And it whispered, "This is where you begin again." There's a moment in life when the weight of everything you've been carrying doesn't just feel heavy, it feels unbearable. You wake up, and instead of being excited for a new day, there's a knot in your chest, a heaviness in your legs, and a voice in your head whispering, "I can't do this anymore." And you know deep down that you're not just tired, you're broken. I remember when I reached that place. It wasn't one big dramatic explosion. It was quieter than that, scarier than that. It was the small everyday cracks that kept spreading through me, until one day, there was nothing left to hold me together. I was good at pretending. I knew how to smile when I was empty, how to laugh when I was hurting, how to keep moving so nobody would see I was falling apart. But inside, the truth was undeniable. I was breaking down, and I couldn't hide it anymore. Acknowledging that kind of struggle is terrifying, because for most of us, we've been taught to be strong, to keep it together, to swallow the pain and push through. We don't want to admit to ourselves, let alone to anyone else, that we're not okay. But here's the truth: denying your struggle doesn't make it go away. Ignoring the cracks doesn't stop the breaking. If anything, it makes the collapse even more inevitable. I had to face a hard reality. I broke myself through years of choices that didn't align with who I truly was, through chasing approval that never actually filled me, through saying yes when every part of me was screaming no. I became a stranger to myself, and eventually that stranger fell apart. That's the thing about struggle. It doesn't announce itself politely. It doesn't tap you on the shoulder and ask if you're ready to deal with it. It sneaks up on you, or it builds slowly, until one day you realize you can't keep pretending. You can't keep faking strength. You can't keep telling yourself that you'll deal with it tomorrow. At some point, you reach the edge, and the struggle demands your attention. And when I finally admitted out loud, "I'm not okay," something shifted. It wasn't relief, not at first. It was raw. It was humiliating. It felt like failure, but it was also real. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't hiding behind masks. I wasn't pretending. I was looking my pain in the face and calling it what it was. That acknowledgement, the moment you stop running from your own struggle, is the moment healing becomes possible. Because you can't rebuild what you won't admit is broken. You can't grow through pain you refuse to name. And you definitely can't find freedom while you're still shackled to denial. Let me be clear: acknowledging struggle doesn't mean wallowing in it. It doesn't mean you let it define you. It means you're brave enough to face it head on. It means you stop pretending you're invincible and start accepting that you're human. And there is incredible power in that. Because here's what I've learned: the moment you're willing to say, "This is where I am. This is how bad it feels. This is how much it hurts," you've already taken the first step forward. That honesty becomes the foundation you can build on. That struggle becomes the soil where resilience grows. I want you to think about your own life for a second. Maybe you've been carrying something that nobody knows about. Maybe you've been wearing the mask of "I'm fine," while inside you're crumbling. Maybe, just like me, you've been holding yourself together with tape and glue, hoping nobody notices the cracks. If that's you, I want you to hear me right now. Acknowledging that pain does not make you weak. It makes you courageous. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's vulnerable. But it's also the first step toward freedom. Because when you acknowledge the struggle, you open the door to change. You give yourself permission to stop pretending and start rebuilding. I broke myself. That's the truth. And it hurt to say it. But without admitting that, I would have never found the strength to rebuild myself into someone stronger, someone truer, someone more alive than I ever imagined I could be. Here's the truth I was afraid to say out loud. I was broken. Not by some tragedy that struck out of nowhere, but by the life I was living every single day. And I want to be brutally honest with you about that. Because if I sugarcoat it, if I dress it up to make it easier to hear, then I'm not giving you the real story. And the real story matters. I didn't just fall apart because of bad luck or because life was unfair. I broke because I kept abandoning myself. I broke because I silenced my own voice so that other people would be comfortable. I broke because I kept running from the truth that my life didn't feel like my life anymore. And I don't think I'm alone in that. A lot of us are really good at pretending. We're experts at posting the smiling pictures, saying the right things, keeping up the appearance that everything is fine when deep down we're screaming. We tell ourselves, don't rock the boat. Don't disappoint anyone. Don't admit you're drowning. So we sink quietly. Day by day, raw honesty is terrifying because it forces you to stop lying to yourself. It forces you to confront the fact that the story you've been telling the world, the strong, happy, capable version of you, doesn't match the reality of how you feel when you're alone. And facing that gap between who you pretend to be and who you really are is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. For me, the raw honesty started small. It was the whisper in my mind that said, this isn't working. You're exhausted, you're lost. At first, I shoved it away. I didn't want to hear it. I told myself, you're fine, just keep going. But that whisper didn't leave. It grew louder. It became a scream. And eventually, I couldn't ignore it anymore. So I started saying the words out loud, words I had been too afraid to admit. I'm unhappy. I'm not fulfilled. I feel empty. I don't even know who I am anymore. And the moment those words left my mouth, I felt exposed. I felt weak, but I also felt free. Because honesty is liberation. It strips away the weight of pretending. It releases you from the performance of holding it all together. And while it's messy, while it's uncomfortable, it's also the doorway to change. I want to pause here and say this: being honest with yourself isn't about blaming yourself. It's not about beating yourself up for every mistake you've made or every path you chose that didn't work out. Raw honesty is about clarity. It's about shining a light on the truth so you can finally see where you are and from there decide where you want to go. The danger of avoiding honesty is that you end up living a lie. And here's the thing about lies: they always cost you more than the truth. They cost you energy. They cost you peace. They cost you your authenticity. And eventually, the lie collapses under its own weight, leaving you with nothing but regret. When I finally admitted, without filters or excuses, that I was broken, I realized something: honesty wasn't the end of me. It was the beginning of me. It was the moment I stopped running from myself and started listening. Maybe you've been afraid to say your truth out loud. Maybe you're worried about what people will think or how they'll react. I get it. I was too. But let me tell you this: the most powerful thing you can ever say is, this is me. This is where I am. This is what hurts. Those words don't make you weak. They make you unstoppable. Because the truth, no matter how painful, is the foundation of freedom. And once you stand in your truth, you can face anything. I broke myself, and the raw, unfiltered honesty of saying that was the scariest step I ever took. But it was also the most important. Because until you're willing to be honest about your pain, you'll never discover the power that lies on the other side of it. When you're standing in the middle of your own brokenness, it feels like the end. It feels like everything you've built, everything you've believed about yourself has crumbled. And in that moment, you start to wonder, what's left of me now? What do I have to offer when the pieces don't fit anymore? That was the question I asked myself over and over. And for a long time, the only answer I heard was silence. But then something shifted, not all at once, But slowly, like the sun rising after a long night, I began to see that breaking down didn't mean my life was over. It meant my old life was over. It meant the version of me that wasn't real, the version I had built on other people's expectations and my own fears, had collapsed. And while that was painful, it was also an invitation. Because if I had the power to break myself, I also had the power to rebuild myself. And this time, I could rebuild on a stronger foundation. One built on truth instead of lies, authenticity instead of performance, courage instead of fear. Here's the perspective shift that changed everything. Being broken doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And sometimes the breaking is necessary. Sometimes it's the only way life can strip away what doesn't belong to you, so you can finally uncover what does. Think about it. When you break a bone, the healing process makes it stronger in the very place it fractured. The same is true for us. The parts of us that crack under pressure, the parts of us that fall apart, those are the exact places where resilience has the opportunity to grow, but only if we're willing to see the breaking as a beginning instead of an ending. That shift in perspective didn't happen for me overnight. At first, I wanted to resist it. I wanted my old life back. I wanted to rewind, to undo the mistakes, to somehow piece together the before version of me. But here's the reality: you can't go back. There is no before to return to. There's only forward. And forward requires you to see your brokenness as the raw material for something better. When I stopped asking, why did this happen to me? And started asking, what can I learn from this? What can I build with this? Everything shifted. That one question turned the ruins into building blocks. That one question turned pain into purpose. And that's what I want you to understand. Perspective is everything. Two people can face the same struggle, the same loss, the same heartbreak. One will see it as the end and give up. The other will see it as the beginning and rise stronger. The difference isn't the struggle, it's the perspective. Here's what I discovered when I changed mine. The struggle didn't define me. It refined me. The breaking didn't destroy me. It revealed me. The pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And I know you might not feel that right now. If you're in the middle of your own breaking, it probably feels unfair and unbearable. But I promise you, if you choose to shift your perspective, even just a little, you'll begin to see that the breaking is also the birthing. It's the uncomfortable process of leaving behind who you thought you had to be so you can step into who you really are. That shift doesn't erase the pain. It doesn't make the struggle magically easier, but it gives the pain meaning. And meaning is what keeps you moving when you want to give up. I broke myself, and for a long time, I believed that was the end of me. But the truth is, it was the start of the real me. And the moment I shifted my perspective, the rubble stopped looking like a graveyard of mistakes and started looking like the foundation of something new. Here's the thing about rebuilding yourself. It doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. There's no lightning bolt. There's no applause when you decide to start over. Rebuilding is quiet. It's ordinary, and it's built on action, tiny, unglamorous actions that add up over time. When I was at my lowest, I kept waiting for someone to save me. I thought maybe a breakthrough would fall from the sky, or some grand moment would suddenly fix everything. But here's what I learned the hard way: no one is coming. There isn't a rescue team on its way. The only person who can rebuild you is you. And the tool you'll use isn't motivation or inspiration or luck. The tool is action, and not big action. Not change your whole life in one day action. I'm talking about the smallest, simplest steps you can take. Because when you're broken, the mountain feels impossible to climb. But you don't need to climb the mountain. You only need to take the next step. For me, the first action was getting out of bed when I didn't want to. That's it. Just sitting up, putting my feet on the ground, and refusing to let the darkness keep me lying there. The next action was writing down one thing I was grateful for, even if I didn't believe it yet. Then It was calling someone I trusted and saying the words, "I need help." Those actions didn't rebuild my life overnight, but they cracked open the door. They reminded me that I still had power, even if I felt powerless. And that's the beauty of action. It creates momentum. The smallest step leads to the next step, and the next one after that. Too often, we underestimate the power of small actions. We think change has to be massive or it doesn't count. But the truth is, massive change is nothing more than tiny actions repeated day after day. That's how you rebuild. Not with one leap, but with 1,000 steps. Here's what I realized: when you're broken, you don't need to know the whole plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to decide what the next right thing is and do it. That one choice becomes a brick. The next choice becomes another brick. And before you know it, you've laid the foundation of a life that feels real, one step, one brick at a time. Action is also empowering because it shifts you out of helplessness. When you act, you stop being a passive participant in your own life. You stop waiting for change and start creating it. And that shift is everything. It's the difference between being stuck in your pain and moving through your pain. I won't lie to you. Taking action when you're broken is hard. Some days, the voice in your head will say, "Why bother? Nothing's going to change." But that's a lie. Because the second you act, even in the smallest way, something already has changed. You've chosen not to stay stuck. And here's the thing: the actions that rebuild, you don't have to make sense to anyone else. They don't have to be big enough to impress anyone. They only have to matter to you. Maybe it's journaling for 10 minutes. Maybe it's going for a walk. Maybe it's finally starting that project you've been too afraid to begin. Whatever it is, those little actions are the proof that you're still fighting. I broke myself, but I rebuilt myself not with grand gestures or perfect plans, but with tiny, messy, imperfect actions. And each one taught me this truth: your power isn't in what you've lost. Your power is in what you choose to do next. And that power, the power to act, belongs to you right now. I want you to pause for a second and look at yourself. Really look. Take a moment to be honest with yourself about where you are right now. Don't think about what other people see. Don't think about the mask you've been wearing. Just ask yourself, am I truly okay? Am I living the life I want to live? Or am I pretending? Because here's the truth: every single one of us has broken places. Every single one of us has moments when we've fallen apart, when we felt like we couldn't go on, when life has demanded more of us than we thought we had to give. And some of those moments might still be fresh. Some of them might be buried deep down, hidden under the routines and distractions we use to survive. But I want to tell you something important. Your brokenness does not disqualify you. It does not mean you're weak or failing or beyond repair. In fact, the exact opposite is true. The fact that you're sitting here, listening, breathing, surviving, that is proof that you still have the power to rise. I'm inviting you today to lean into that truth. I'm inviting you to stop pretending you're fine when you're not. I'm inviting you to stop waiting for someone else to fix you and to start realizing that the first person you have to heal is you. Because healing, rebuilding, rediscovering yourself, it starts with you. Ask yourself, if I don't do it, who will? If I don't face the truth of my life, the cracks, the mistakes, the moments I've been running from, who will? The answer is no one. And that's both frightening and freeing, because it means your destiny is in your hands. Your future is yours to shape, and your life can be as big, as bold, and as extraordinary as you're willing to fight for. And here's the secret most people never tell you. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't even have to know exactly what your life will look like after the rebuilding. All you have to do is be willing to start, to take one honest look at yourself, to admit the truth of where you are, to take one action, no matter how small, toward being the person you want to become. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, what it would feel like to let go of pretending. to stop hiding the cracks, to stop fearing the judgment of others. Imagine standing in the ruins of your own struggles, but instead of feeling defeated, feeling a spark of possibility. Imagine knowing that those broken pieces are not the end, they are the foundation. And now I want to ask you, are you willing to start? Are you willing to say, I am not perfect, I am broken, and I will rebuild? Because that choice right there is more powerful than any speech, any advice, any motivation you could ever hear. That choice is yours, and yours alone. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have the courage